How about now? Andrew, talk.
How about now? Any audio?
I forgot to turn the mic on.
Oh, John's calling me.
No, that's good.
Hello. Okay.
Okay, we're good.
Sweet.
It's all good. Everything's shared. That's as good as it's gonna get, boys.
Small month obsession.
Small month assumption. How you doing, buddy? Sorry about that. I forgot to turn the mic on. That is the downside to having all these different configurations for when I have a guest versus when it's just Andrew and I, or if somebody's here versus calling in. One of these days, I'll be able to afford all the fancy stuff that I can literally just hit a switch and be done. Make my life a lot easier. But for now, we're low tech on a budget. All right. We'll give this just one more minute so we can let some other people join in here. It'd be nice if I could see where the hell my mouse went. And then we'll go. All right, who we got here? We got John, Josh, Chris Peckham. Hey, buddy. Josh again. Smallmouth session. Thank you for joining me. Us, everybody, all of us. Dale, T Foles, my buddy. Hey, my brother-in-law Keith's back again. What's up, dude? Co2. A lot of people here tonight. Who we got here? Reverb, big, massive reverb, big echo. That's a new problem. Chad, coworker. Well, we usually take the first 5 minutes anyway to introduce people, make sure audio is good. So if anybody's got any issues with it, let me know. And I'll get it sorted out really quick. But otherwise, we'll get started in the stream here in a second. Like I said, I'll give one more minute. Lumen Fishing Series. Hey, buddy. Chris, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, congrats on your song.
Yeah, dude, your new album dropped. That was awesome. Congrats on that. Plan is for tonight, for those that are already watching, those that are here, if you could do me a favor, drop a like on the stream. We'd greatly appreciate it. After that, we'll jump into it. Again, anybody else watching, let me know if there's any issue with the audio. I only had one person so far say that it's but everybody else seems to be okay, so maybe it's just his setup. We'll figure it out. John Mango, hey, buddy. What do I got? Oh, my God, that's still really good. I got 603 IPA.
I only had one of these.
It's not bad. It's actually pretty good. Sounds good. All right, it was good. You got Moose Juice IPA, Great North Airworks, a collaboration.
Oh, wait, he might be in the way.
Oh, yeah, I went dead center. Whoops. Over here.
Wait, right backwards? No.
It just said it was fine. Okay, we got 3 for 3 in the chat. So, good enough for 5 minutes in. That's usually when we start swinging things. So, Steve, thank you very much for joining us tonight, man. Greatly appreciate it. Tried to get you on here earlier in the year, but we couldn't make schedules align, but finally we were able to. For those that don't know Steve, he is the owner of Bassfishin Electronics, based right here in New Hampshire. A quick backstory for how I know him. I met him through Bass Boat Central forums sometime in 2018. There was a couple of the other regular guys on there in the New Hampshire sub forum that had great experience with Steve, and I knew I was buying my current Skeeter, but I wanted to upgrade electronics. I had no idea what I was going to do or when or what my budget was. I called Steve, and Steve, unless I'm mistaken, you were on the phone with me for over 2 hours. You didn't know me at all. I had no promise to you that I was buying anything, but you took that level of time to break down like everything from a 50,000 foot overview, and then was very patient with all my subsequent questions as I drilled down to kind of get close to what it was that I wanted to get for my boat. Ever since then, I bought everything through you. I think there's one thing I didn't buy through you, but I don't remember why. Other than that, like literally everything for my boat, electronics-wise, I've bought through you. You have earned my business for life. With that backstory said, I want to hand it to you, Steve, and give you a moment to go ahead and, kind of better explain who you are, your background in fishing, the business, the whole 9 yards. The stage is yours, friend.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on tonight. I started this business a few years ago. I had no intentions of growing it. What it's turned into today. I honestly just wanted a little extra fishing money. I love to fish Lake Champlain, and as you all know, that gets expensive with traveling and gas and hotels and all that. So I just wanted to make about $500 a month extra. So I started buying some used units and selling them on eBay and Bass Boat Central, wherever I could scrape them up, and took some trade-ins and stuff. And, here we are 3 years later. We just built a new shop at the house here. That shop should be functional in the next 2 or 3 months. We're just waiting for some garage doors, but we're hoping that's going to bring a whole new look to Bassfishin Electronics. We have a dedicated 30 by 40 shop. We're going to be able to have 3 boats undercover at a time. Plus, we could have 3 or 4 boats in the yard as well. So we're looking forward to growing this thing. We're starting with new brands at almost monthly at this point. DD26, Sea Clear harnesses, Russell Marine products. We carry all 3 major brands: Lowrance, Garmin, Humminbird. Cornfield Crappie, Bass Boat Technologies, Durasafe. Pretty much anything that has to do with your boat other than the motor, we take care of it. Trailer related, anything electronics related, wiring. So we're really looking forward to growing this and being the premier electronics dealer here in New Hampshire and all throughout New England.
Nice. So aside from the website, you're on Instagram and Facebook. Anything else, or just those primarily?
Yeah, we're trying to get our YouTube channel going. I'm awful with video, so Instagram and YouTube is definitely my biggest downfall, and I need to stop being an old man and learn how to do that stuff. So we're hoping to grow that. There's a lot of products we offer that don't have good instructions or any kind of videos. So hopefully this winter time it'll slow down a little bit. Well, I don't know if I want it to slow down, but
It's not going to slow down
That's
for you.
when people want their stuff worked on.
Right? You're going to get busier. I'm not even kidding.
I'm on YouTube and do some tutorials and anything anybody wants to see, definitely hit us up, text message, Facebook message, Instagram, whatever. Let us know what you want to see, and we're going to work hard on that this winter to get better at doing some YouTube videos.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for the record, I have been helping with videos.
Yeah, if we could stop working so much and help a little more with videos, maybe we'd have a little more.
Yeah, I was supposed to swing by Steve's house, what was that, 5 or 6 weeks ago now, to grab a box from Electrex to ship it back, and so we could talk, so I could help you get set up to do more of these videos on your own. And then my work was like, hey, how about you work your butt off? I can't say, it wasn't them. It was mostly me. I wanted to do well with this specific situation. It took a long time to get through. So now we're past that. We can finally hook up and get you sorted, and hopefully you guys can get back to some kind of regular uploads, both to YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, the whole 9 yards. Make it easy for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What I really want to do tonight is I really want to be able to turn this into like an open Q&A to the chat. Like, I know myself, I have a ton of questions. And a lot of it is in relation to your tournaments, and I'm sure Andrew himself has a ton of questions about just graphs in general, like things that we have learned from using what electronics I have on my boat, like things that we have both been discussing, like obviously I've been talking about things I want to put on my boat and expand upon, but like we fish together every time I go out, so I just run everything by him, like this is what I'm thinking, this is how I think it can help. So I want to like go all in and expand on this and get chat involved, give people a chance to actually ask questions from someone that has that level of knowledge from you that, the only way they're going to get that, generally speaking, is calling a shop to get it. So this is kind of everybody's chance just to have at it and ask all the questions that they have. Before we get into it, because I feel it's important and relevant, especially as we're going to be diving into, I'm sure, a lot of questions regarding Active Target and or LiveScope. Tell us a little bit about your tournaments this year.
Yeah, I want to hear that.
Right? Because I heard you may have won a decently sized MLF tournament.
Yeah, I don't know. What was that tournament called? I don't remember. Was that like a Toyota series or something?
That was the MLF Big 5 Toyota series. What was it, 200 boats or like 188, something? I forget.
Yeah, something like that. It was that was a special moment. I mean, obviously that was something I never expected. I mean, that was I guess I'd call it a turning point, but I never have any intentions of going pro, but it was certainly a huge credibility to the business. I mean, that proved to everybody I'm not just out here trying to make money and sell fish finders. I mean, I truly do get out there and use this stuff, and what better what better tournament to solidify that than the Toyota Series? I mean,
Seriously.
that's
With a win.
that was all about electronics. There's no secret to it. I mean, I utilize side imaging, down imaging, 2D sonar, mapping, the whole 9 yards. And then, of course, the biggest player was Active Target. I mean, I haven't been bashful about that since the Toyota Series. And I was able to finish third in the BFL the following weekend. And then I've also won 2 Champlain Bass Series and then the New Hampshire Bass Federation team tournament up there with my dad last weekend, which probably was more special than any of them, to be honest, to be able to share that with my dad. I mean, that was something I really looked forward to. And when I heard that tournament was going up there, I knew that was going to be a special day. And I mean, day one of that tournament, we weighed in 34 pounds of smallmouth on 8 fish. I mean, you do the math up, that's over a 4-pound average. Just
Don't do math really early in the morning on that, though. I commented, I'm like, oh, it's almost 4 pounds. And
I didn't even see your comment. All I saw was the edited comment, so I missed that one.
I couldn't math that early in the morning after a long night. I was like, wow, 8 for 34, that's almost 4 pounds. And then I forget who it was. He's like, hey, bud, check your math again. I'm like, yeah, no, that's over 4 pounds. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, we went into that tournament. I was hoping I could catch 30 to 31 pounds a day on 8. And that first day was just magical. I mean, my primary spot, we caught a decent bag, and I think we had 1 or 2 over 4, but we pulled off to a couple different spots that I hadn't even fished in the last month. We just pulled up to them, and boom, I pulled up to the first one. I think I caught like a 457 or something, and then the last spot of the day, we had 5 minutes left to fish, and I caught another like 452. And I mean, it was just I can't describe this last month or month and a half, whatever it's been. It's just every decision I make is the right one, and I don't know. I'm just gonna keep rolling with it. We got a Toyota Series championship coming up at Pickwick in October, and there's no telling how I'm gonna do down there. But it pays $235,000 for first, and I'd certainly love to bring that home. It's a long shot, but I'm just glad I get a chance to be in it.
That's friggin' awesome. I mean, so yeah. You won the MLF Big 5 Toyota Series. You won, correct me if I'm wrong, both of the championship, the Champlain Bass Series, first and second stop on that series. You took third in the BFL on Champlain. Like, the level of consistency you've been at this summer is pretty insane.
Yeah, it's been good. The first Champlain Bass Series was a spawn tournament. I finished 5th in that, but the last 2, I'd say the coolest part of the whole thing was the BFL was on a Saturday. I finished 3rd in that. That was the weekend after the Toyota Series. And then we went down to the other end of the lake to Ticonderoga the next day for the Champlain Bass Series. And I literally didn't practice. I haven't been to Ticonderoga the entire year. I just went and fished it. And I ended up, my first fish of the day was a 5.5, and I caught a 6 on a frog. And I ended up winning that tournament on all largemouth, and I hadn't even been down there all year. So when that kind of stuff's happening, you got to go with it, and you just know it's your time.
I like it. So I know you just kind of touched upon it a second ago during that review of how well you've been doing for the tournaments. That Active Target, because you fish Lowrance, so it's Active Target for their forward-facing sonar, has been very instrumental in what you're doing. Is there anything particular about that you want to elaborate on that, wouldn't hinder, I guess, what maybe you're... Don't give away your secret sauce. If it's something to that effect where what you have found is just like that key over your competitors, then by all means, I would never ask you to share that. But if it's something more general about it that you've kind of dialed in on that you're willing to share, by all means, is there anything you can elaborate on for, again, specifically what it is about forward-facing sonar that has been so instrumental for you this year?
I mean, honestly, there's no real secrets. Have I learned a few things along the way that I'm not going to share? Yeah, but they're not game changers to what I'm doing. I mean, forward-facing sonar has just allowed you to see fish exactly what it's meant to do out in front of the boat, and you don't have to just drop on them. And these smallmouth are going to be more active if you're not right on top of them with that sonar pinging down on them the whole time. And that's been the game changer. I mean, if you can put that drop shot on their head, you have a way better chance of just fan casting, hoping you're going to get one to bite, or trying to go over them with 2D sonar and dropping on them. you know, being able to see those fish 80, 100 feet out in front of the boat, I mean, we could never come close to doing that, right? And being able to boost your confidence and put that drop shot in front of those fish that far out in front of the boat is just something we've never been able to do before. And that's what's changed fishing for me. I mean, there is no secrets I have. I haven't been bashful the whole time. I mean, if I didn't have Active Target, I wouldn't be on this run right now. And I'm not afraid to admit that.
That's awesome. So it's actually funny how you said that about being able to like cast right at them, because with Mega 360, like all last year, that's like him and I kept saying it to each other over and over. You know, we roll up on one spot that we know of, right? But because of the 360, all of a sudden I found like a 10-foot rock pile that I never knew about that was 60 feet off to the side. And I lay my rod down, I'm like, all right, you're 45 feet, 60 feet, whatever it is over there. And just pinpoint cast on it every time, and we've been killing it. But then that's like your 1,000-foot overview in the lake, and then forward-facing sonar gives you that like bird's eye view, like that just right over the top view, just to even better hone in on it. And speaking of your point about putting it right on their head, I was out with smallmouth freaks on Lake Ontario in the St. Lawrence River about a month ago now, the end of July, and you know, he's got the Panoptics, the Garmin version on his boat, and I was watching him. Like, I've been in his boat 3 times now, and you know, he's marking fish. He's like, "Oh, that's a big mark." I think it was about 40 feet out. And he threw his drop shot out. And he's like, "Oh, I think we're gonna hit it. That's gonna be really close." And you could watch it just right on his head, and the thing was like, it just blasted out. And it was funny to see that. Like, talk about being precise. I mean, I'm kind of lucky, right, to a point in that specific instance. But I know what you mean. Like, being able to know, like, exactly to a T where that fish is versus just like a general rock pile. That's next level accuracy and dangerous information. You know, dangerous in the right hands for the level of information you can get from that.
Yeah, I mean, it's to the point now where I've been fishing this specific pattern for a month and a half or whatever it's been, and I can pretty much call my shots. I know when he's going to bite or not, and I know how big he is. I mean, I've gotten almost greedy at this point. I don't even cast to the little ones. It's pretty crazy what you can dial into once you've been around the quantity of fish that I've been around, and they're certainly dying out. There's no question about it. It's becoming slim pickings for sure. But I can generally tell if it's over 3 pounds, and then I can tell if it's going to bite or not. And it's pretty cool to be able to really tune that in and dial it in and just really understand what these smallmouth do in the summertime. And we wouldn't be able to do that without this technology.
Yep. So at this point, we kind of set the stage for, you know, especially Active Target. And that's something I want to get into because I think that's what, like, a lot of people are interested in tonight. But I want to cover the whole gambit, and I want to start at the lower end of what we're doing. I have a question in mind. Is there anything you want to start with, like a burning question that you've been holding on to for a little bit that Steve is like just best suited to answer for you?
I don't.
Nothing that jumping out for you?
Not really.
All right. I got one.
Not yet.
All right. So let's start at the beginning of all this, right? As far as from the beginner angler perspective, someone that's got minimal investment to make into their electronics. On the lower end of things, that still gives you, I guess, a certain degree of freedom to expand into. Not just from unlocking the technology at hand, like as you begin to learn like what it's capable of and understanding what these things can do, but to expand on it with, like, say, different transducers. Like I know like the Lowrance Hook series is kind of the cheaper version that has certain limitability for what it can do. Like you can't share a map card from that unit to another unit. Things like that. So hopefully that was clear enough. With that in mind, what do you recommend from any of the big three, Humminbird, Lowrance, Garmin, for those entry-level units that still allows a little bit of expansion for the beginning angler looking to kind of make their first big splash in the electronics world?
So my biggest advice would be, I understand. I've been doing this long enough. I understand guys are on budgets and stuff, and you don't have so much money to spend, and I get that. I respect that. But I will say, if you are if you're a bass fisherman and you have any inklings to go as, fish tournaments, stuff like that. Even if you don't want to fish tournaments, if you just want to learn how to catch fish, don't go out there and waste your money on a hook unit or a Garmin Striker or any of that. None of these guys are going to want to hear me say that, the major brands, but it's just the facts. Don't go out there and spend your money on that. Save up a little bit. There's plenty of used electronics out there. Go with your entry level, what I would call your middle level stuff, which would be your Lowrance Elite FS, Elite TIs, TI2s. It's discontinued models, but still great units. Garmin Echo Map would be the equivalent to that of the Lowrance. Humminbird doesn't really have anything like that. They just have a Helix and a Solix unit, so they don't really meet that middle of the road. I guess the Helix is considered that, but they're still pretty pricey. But my biggest advice would be to get a 7-inch or a 9-inch unit, preferably a 9-inch, and start with side imaging, sonar, and down imaging. And that's the biggest recommendation I can say to start on a budget. You can get good mapping, you can get good side imaging and down imaging sonar out of those two units, either the Garmin Echo Map or the Elite FS from Lowrance.
To elaborate on what you just said, especially about getting used units, I mean, I still have used units that I bought from you when I first got involved in this, and I've made some upgrades along the way, but I for my part wanted to go into it like kind of middle of the road for budget / capability. I know I wanted touchscreen, but I couldn't afford what Humminbird did because, like you said, they don't have any like what Lowrance did at the time, right? There's several generations of models. There's the the HDS series, which then I think became the Elite series, and then they had the Carbons, now they have the Lives, and so on. Like Humminbird doesn't have that. They just have Helix's gens 1, 2, 3, and 4 now, I think is what they're at. To get into touchscreen Humminbird was just super cost prohibitive for me at the time, but to get into a used HDS, 2 7s that could interlink and touchscreen functionality, I could do side imaging, 2D sonar down, like I mean, I forget how much I ended up spending through you, but it was like a fraction of the cost for what I could do for like anybody else, especially because the number of used units that you get for Lowrance for previous, not only gens, but previous release models was staggering. How many more options there were at that level. A little bit more limited as far as overall quality, like the side imaging of Humminbird to me just still knocks Lowrance out of the water.
A lot better.
Yeah, but that's the only knock against it, and they're still great. I mean, I bought all those graphs from you in the end of 2018. I think I bought them from you in July or August of 2018, and I still have them on my boat. And now they got the Live. Like, I don't even know how far behind I'm at, and they work great. There's not a single thing wrong with any of them. And I did it for cheap money.
Yeah, and that's the nice part about the trade-in program that we have. You can get into those units more affordable. Trades aren't for everybody, but that's really why we started the business, was to try to get affordable units. And we've always tried to be reasonable on prices. My margins are so much smaller on these used units than the average guy would think, but I try to do that to be fair. And that's what we've done from the start. We don't try to make the most and get rich off of this. It's just to try to get affordable units in guys' hands. And that's a big part of our trade-in program for sure.
Yep. So there's a ton of questions in the chat that I want to bounce back to, but I do have one more question that is kind of like a general question about all of the big three. And if you have other brands that are absolutely worth mentioning, please feel free to, because I know that there's Ray Marine, which is incidentally not that far from here where I live.
10 minutes.
There's only 3 that really exist.
And there's that. So I guess just from again, a general perspective, a general standpoint, so that kind of, I know like most people when they start in this, they're looking for like that one answer fits all kind of thing. So you already answered like kind of the entry level, what you get into. Now, as far as the big three, your traditional 2D sonar versus we'll call it down imaging / structure scan versus side imaging versus live / forward facing sonar. Out of the big three, who's kind of top dog in every one of those categories? Because some people are really at this point only interested in live sonar, whereas other people are really only interested, I'm a traditionalist, I just want the best 2D sonar I can get, and so on. So with that in mind, what do you got?
So there's no one answer to that. I mean, I'm as honest as it can be, even though I sell all brands, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm sponsored by Lowrance, so I mean, you got to keep that in mind. But still, even being sponsored by them, I'll shoot you guys straight. I'm never gonna lie about anything. But each one has their own. I feel like each one excels. I think Humminbird has the best side imaging and mapping, but mapping is a loaded question because that's dependent upon the area you're in. Up here in the Northeast, Humminbird definitely has the best mapping. There's no arguing it. Navionics would be right behind them, and CMAP would be in third. But Humminbird, their side imaging is still probably the best, I'd say. But I don't know. I mean, Lowrance is knocking on their door with active imaging. It's right there. I had the opportunity to run a boat with the Humminbird and the Lowrance side by side with both the latest side imaging, and you wouldn't convince me to take a Humminbird over the Lowrance. I think they're on even keel there. I don't think Garmin's quite there yet on side imaging. I'd say as far as forward-facing sonar goes, that's kind of pick your poison. I haven't seen Mega Live yet in person, so I'm not going to make any comments on that. But I think you can't go wrong with either on that. Garmin offers a little more clarity on structure, grass, stuff like that. But I don't think you can see fish as far out as you can with the Active Target. So, there is no one answer. And then as far as 2D sonar goes, Lowrance is the best there. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
That's my honest opinion on all of them.
So my wife is going to hate me for asking this, but I think I've already now determined what I'm buying this winter. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, the clarity there of the Lowrance with their side imaging? Because that's the only thing that's kind of kicking me in the pants right now that I don't like about my current Lowrance setup. And then, chat, I promise, we're off to you after this. I've already got questions queued up, but I'm curious.
Yeah,
I'm ready to spend money.
You're running an LSS2 transducer, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's night and day from the LSS2 to the new active imaging 3-in-1 or 2-in-1. There's no question about it. It's a huge upgrade.
So is it just the deucer, or is it also based on what graph can run it? Like, I'm still running the HTS Gen 3 series. Like, can I run that deucer on mine, or do I need to go up to the next generation of graph?
You have to or Alive or EFS to run that transducer. You could go with the 3D structure scan. That would add the module and the transducer, and that would give you just as good a side imaging, but that's having to add a module. And I just don't like the idea of modules. It's another point of failure. I mean, you have to have it with live sonar, but it's not something I'm a fan of for side imaging.
Yeah. All right, that's good to know. All right, let's bounce into the chat. And actually, Andrew, I'm going to have you jump into this because you understand electronics and just like electrical in general way more than I do. Like
electrical? No, I just see him like, that rock looks good.
All right, well, whatever. Take Dale Wyman there, and let's dive into that.
Let's talk about proper power sources a little. Most overlooked topic when purchasing electronics. I mean, I would think so.
I never
like
even
the
thought
last
about it.
thing. I'd be like, well, it's charging.
And when I added all this stuff that I got from Steve, going to the 2 graphs, and then especially when I had 360, all of a sudden I was killing, even my 3-year-old battery left, right, and center. I'm like, maybe a little too much running off that one thing now.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing in my boat I'm running is just the trolling motor off my batteries. I don't even use electronics on my boat. I just launch it and go. But I mean, that power source, the one I had before, was junk. It charged, and the battery would last maybe a half a day.
Oof. Okay. So
and then when I swapped over, I went and bought that nice, super expensive 4-bang, 3-bang charge or whatever it is.
Yep.
And batteries last. They charge and they stay charged.
Right. So you're actually getting proper juice and everything to
right.
it. All right. So elaborate then, Steve, on Dale's question about, I guess, power sources in general, and when you have to start considering additional power sources in the form of second battery when you're just talking about like adding electronics. Does the size of the graph play into that, or is it more of the number of graphs and what you're using on those graphs? Say like forward-facing sonar, if memory serves correct, that's relatively power hungry when adding it to your boat.
Yeah, so there's a few of those things that come into play. I mean, this is the biggest hurdle we have to overcome when we're doing installs and stuff. And convincing people to have the right battery in place. You know, for forever, right? We've always ran a Group 27 or a Group 29 Interstate or Durus, whatever, a Walmart battery. You know, they cost $130, and I was that guy three or 4 years ago. I mean, I thought you'd be crazy to go spend $400 on an AGM, and let alone a lithium that's going to cost over $1,000, right? That's just right. Who would spend that? But things have changed, right? We're not running 5-inch black and white graphs anymore. I mean, most serious tournament guys have at least 3 graphs on their boat minimum. Whether it's a 9-inch on the back or a 16-inch. I mean, a lot of guys have 2 units up front now, and if you're gonna have live sonar on there, you're gonna have to rethink what you got for a power source. Either and there's still, you don't have to go out and buy a lithium. I mean, it's certainly the best solution, but you don't have to do that. You can run 2, you can have a cranking battery and a house battery in parallel, so you could have 2 AGMs. But the problem then is weight, right? You're going to have upwards of 140 to 160 pounds of batteries in the back, and that becomes a concern, especially if you got an older boat, a smaller boat. I mean, there's not many boats that can handle a 5th battery in the bilge compartment. So that's where that lithium comes into play. Like, for example, we sell the Ionic 125 amp hour battery. Yes, it's expensive, but that battery is just a workhorse. I mean, you can put 5 units with 360 active target, LiveScope, whatever you want, on that one battery with all your pumps, and you're going to get a full 12-hour day, 15-hour day out of it. So battery source and the wiring is the biggest overlooked thing these days. I mean, I've worked on, 20-year-old boats all the way up to a $90,000 Vexus, and honestly, none of them are properly wired for these units that we're running these days. And that's where this bigger gauge wire that we're installing, we're actually looking to exclusively go on installs to installing these heavier gauge wire harnesses, just so we're not having problems. Because once you install those harnesses, it's worry free.
No, I mean, the bigger the graph, the bigger the wire you want, right? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, it's going
to go
mini graph running, all that. I mean, if you're just running a couple 9-inch graphs, can you get by with running your factory harness? Probably, but you got to remember, these boat manufacturers, for the most part, I'm talking about house one, but anything prior to that, most of them are running 16 or 14 gauge wire to their units. And you got to remember that wire is going through breakers, switches, connectors. Just for example, and this is not a knock on Vexus at all, because Vexus is the best built boat I've worked on to date. But I just worked on one the other day, and that battery is putting out 13.2 volts or whatever at the battery. At the bow with the factory wiring, we're measuring 12 volts. So you're getting a full volt drop from the back. You install one of our harnesses, it doesn't have to be one of our harnesses, C-Clear, whatever, any 8 gauge, 10 gauge wire, and you're gonna get a half a volt drop or less on that. So just that right there shows you, how much voltage is being dropped over these smaller gauge wires.
That's a lot.
That's huge.
Jeez.
So another question from chat. Big John's Bass and Mr. John Emery, the owner of Wicked Custom Rods. He asked, how do you feel about spot locks effect with forward facing? And I already know your answer on this, because you have a separate drive mounted just to handle your LiveScope. But I also know there's multiple options that are available for that. Not only what you offer for sale, but also my buddy TJ behind Smallmouth Freaks created his own version of this. But I want your answer to elaborate on that, and then not only what you have, how you worked around that, the pros and cons behind it, but then other options out there, because I know there's several.
So it really shocks me that more pros aren't running a pole mount. And the only thing I can come up with is the reason why they're not. One reason would be just it's something else you have to maintain and worry about breaking. And then number 2, I think they fish a lot of southern lakes, and it's probably not as valuable on the southern lakes, especially like Florida. And you fish in Okeechobee, something like that, then there's no need for it. Just put it on the trolling motor and go. But when you come up here to the Northeast or anywhere out in the Midwest, up north, any smallmouth lakes, I mean, I just can't imagine not having a pole mount. I mean, I'm spot locked so much throughout the day, and your active target or live scope is useless when you're on spot lock. So I don't understand why more people aren't running pole mounts other than cost. I mean, it's a substantial cost. Just for example, like the right height turn is one of the ones we carry. That's $650. And then the cornfield crappie is the one that I run on my boat, and those are retailing at $1,100. So yes, it's a big expense, but I carry a spare with me. It's that important.
Yeah. And,
so,
I mean,
mine broke, I'm taking it off and putting the other spare on because it's that critical to me when I'm fishing smallmouth.
Yeah. And yeah, is it expensive? Like, kind of in the grand scheme of things? Yeah, absolutely. Like an extra minimum $650 just to get a separate pole mount for your active target, it's a lot of money. But in the perspective of someone that has already dropped, what is it? $1,500 just for the transducer on active target? Like, and then however much for a graph that can handle it, an extra $650 when you're already spending that much money on what is most likely a third or fourth or fifth graph setup in your boat. Like, yeah. At that point, I think you've already got money to splash around.
And if it's gonna help, and you're not just kind of throwing money at this other stuff for it to not like work as good as it should,
right? You're not getting the most out of it.
Right.
Like,
what's the point of even getting it?
Yeah.
So here's another thing that doesn't get talked about a lot, and anybody who looks at Jacob Wheeler's setup, you'll see this. So I was wondering why he wasn't running a Ghost, and the only reason he's not running a Ghost is because the arrow lags a little bit on the Ghost. And a lot of guys might not think that's a big deal, but when it comes to live sonar, it's so critical to line your transducer up with the fish so you can make the most accurate cast possible. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason why you're seeing that. The Ghost excels the Ultrex in every way, shape, and form, except for the arrow. That's the only downfall to the Ghost, in my opinion. And that's why you're a lot of these guys still running the Ultrex. It's not because it's a better trolling motor. It's just because of accuracy of live sonar.
Yep. And I didn't really notice that at first when I switched to the Ghost until like about a month after I got it. And then I caught it on my peripheral. I moved it kind of fast. And then there was like a half second delay, and all of a sudden I was like, and it kicked over. And I noticed it doesn't, like that top arrow on the head doesn't always move when I'm like creeping it along, trying to make little adjustments, little moves. Like if I'm just, moving it like 10 degrees or something, that arrow doesn't really move up top 9 times out of 10. And all of a sudden it'll kick. So just a weird thing I noticed. I haven't even looked behind it to see like what causes that. But it was an interesting aspect of that trolling motor that I noticed that I wasn't aware of when I bought it. Certainly not a deal breaker for me though.
No, I don't think so.
Even if I had to get rid of my pole mount, still running the Ghost, I'm keeping the Ghost because I'll never go back to an Ultrex.
Dude, there's so many amazing features about it. And actually, chat, while we're at this, I know I'm way behind. We're gonna start rifling through these a little bit faster.
Some of them are stupid too, but they're so nice.
Right, like just that stupid metal plate on the side of the head that guides the rope for when you pull it up. So when it's pulling out of the hole, it pulls straight through, so it's not always wearing through. Like, that's a stupid thing, but it's like, why the hell did nobody else think of that before? That's the smartest stupid thing.
Right.
And then how the trolling motor head turns, no matter which way, when you pull it up, it's like, and it adjusts, so you don't have to tilt the head itself. It's like two of the stupidest, smartest things I've ever seen on there, and like it makes me giddy with excitement every time I pull up my trolling motor.
Yes.
Another question from Dale, and you can answer this because you know just as well as I do. With 360, can you actually see your bait as it falls to the fish? You can with Active Target.
I don't think so.
Nope.
No,
it's not fast
because enough. It's just going around. So it's not being a brrr, like constant ping. It's just.
No, the only way I could potentially see that working is if we were in windshield wiper mode, set to maybe 20 feet, because you would need slightly deep enough water and a big bait.
No, I mean you gotta remember those are different technologies, right? I mean, 360 has its place for the shallow guys for finding offshore structure, but live sonar is for fish and for sea. There's no doubt the ultimate setup is having 360 and live sonar on the boat. You can't beat that setup.
That would be amazing. It's like, we found the structure, and they're the fish.
Right. No, I was just trying to think, like, is there any way possible that you could potentially see your bait? Like, I know you can't, and you wouldn't want to, but like, challenge accepted. All right, I'll give it a shot. Is there any setting where I could throw a bait and see it fall in 360? But at that point, too, you're literally trying to hone into 0.5% of instances where you might be able to see it.
If you throw a 10-inch bait 20 feet from the boat, you might see it flash as the sonar comes, but that might be it.
Throw that 16-inch glide bait with the horse hide on it. You'll see that. Is that a fish or is that my bait? It's a huge shadow. And then John had asked, you offer used equipment, which, yes, you do. Correct me if I'm wrong, Steve. You only offer used equipment on low rance units, right? Or do you also do Humminbird now?
No, we carry some Garmin and Humminbird stuff. It's just not as much. We've had to get away from the used stuff, unfortunately, as much as we used to, because we've had a lot of dishonest people trading in bad units, and all that results is a loss on our end because we're not going to screw over the customer. So,
right.
Unfortunately, we've had to shy away from it a little bit, but I don't want to completely get rid of it because I still want to have affordable, availability to customers. But we've definitely backed off of it a lot.
Gotcha. All right. Another question from chat. Frank Fior, and I'm sorry if I butchered your last name, buddy. In terms of forward-facing sonar, what is the best way to dial it in? What type of bait, or do you go find a brush pile? Like, how should you go about it?
So there's not a whole lot of tweaking that I do with I ran LiveScope since the day it came out until Active Target came out, and I don't do a whole lot of messing around with it. The first critical part I'd say is put it on your trolling motor, you pole mount, whatever you're going to put it on, and go find a hard piece of structure, whether it's a buoy, a tree, a bridge, whatever. Find something you can visually see and go line up that trolling motor in the transducer with that hard structure, and then find out if you're truly pointed straight at it. And that's the biggest key to first getting it set up right, because you want to be able to make the most accurate cast possible.
We've had that.
And
uh-oh, we lost audio. Bear with us for a second.
It's breaking up.
You there? Uh-oh. Mr. Steve has weak Wi-Fi. Give him a second. Who else is in the chat? Kraken Kid. Dude, how you doing, buddy? Woods of Weeds, TV18, J-Bass. Oh, man, there's a lot of people. So, guys, we're catching up, I promise.
Jeez.
Steve, you back?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Lost you for a second there.
Did I cut out through the whole thing?
Yeah, hard.
So, I mean, what I was saying is just find hard structure and go line yourself up with that and adjust the transducer so it's lined up with the pole mount or the trolling motor, and make sure that thing is as accurate as possible.
Nice, okay.
Yeah, because we had that situation happen
with the 360 recently.
360 that we were aiming at a rock pile we knew was there, and it was saying it was like way over that way. We're like, no, it's like over here.
Right, but we didn't pick up on it at first because we were going by like other rocks that we
thought were that rock pile, and we're just like, wait a minute, no.
Yeah.
Wait, no, it's off that point. No, this is wrong.
Yeah. And I look down and it's like, it's kicked off at like 30 degrees off. I'm like, what the hell?
Picking up like 10 tons of grass. I'm like, no, there should be rocks there.
Oh, damn, hang on. We gotta catch up to the front of the chat here because Big John Basson, $5 on the donation. Thank you very much, John. Greatly appreciate it, buddy. I saw, hang on, I highlighted it. Jeff Perrin asked you, Steve, is your boat still for sale and does it come with the lithiums?
Negotiable. The price list not come with the lithiums.
Are you willing to disclose what boat you're getting next? What model you're, well, or at least what if you're not sure yet, like what are your top 3 boats that you're going to go look at?
Oh, I already got it on order. It's a Phoenix 921 Elite.
Ooh, that's my... If I could go out and buy a brand new boat right now, that's the first thing I would go look at and test drive. But I have had, much like most people, I'm assuming, that grew up around my age, an absolute wet dream for a Ranger my whole life. So I would be remiss to not at least go look at a Z521C if they still make those. I haven't actually... Huh?
The default?
No. It was the Carbon series. And now they have the Legacy series, so I don't even know if they have the C series anymore.
Huh.
But I
Go ride it. Go ride in that boat on 2-footers on Champlain and come back and tell me.
On the Ranger or the Phoenix?
No, the Ranger.
Is it not as good as is it supposed to be?
Oh, it's well built, but your back will be sore.
Well, then that's not well built. I want it to be riding smooth, and that's.
So Skeeter's well built then.
Dude, that's the X haul.
We've sent that thing more times. We put that thing in the air more times than. Jesus.
Yeah, I go hard.
I don't know. Then bathroom stops.
Dude, I've already launched that boat twice this year. We had it completely out of the water, prop and all. But I came off the throttle when I realized we were about to go airborne, so it wasn't like hammered down. It came out of the water.
It was the smoothest landing. We thought it was gonna be horrible.
Yeah, dude, we came down the backside of this giant wake. Like two boats coming past us on either side, and their wakes just aligned perfect. At the moment I hit it, it's just like, whoop, and then came down like ass in first and just laid into it. And when I came down the weight, my foot smashed the throttle. It was just like perfect hole shot out
like,
there.
Oh, that was nice.
That's awesome though about the boat, man. I can't wait to see that. What color did you get?
It's black and blue.
Ooh, so are you going to be selling that next year? Because I might be in the market.
Who knows? Probably.
Nice. It ain't gonna be on the market if you buy that boat. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Kraken Kid. Do you run active target straight to the troll motor shaft or secondary shaft? And why? We already covered that. You have the right height turret. Yeah, Woods and Weeds Outdoors said we need some super chat donations so they get some live 12s. As awesome as that would be, for anyone that is interested in donating, you can either do it straight through the chat, or if you go to the video description below the below the stream, there's a link to both my PayPal, our PayPal, and Venmo. YouTube does not take anything out when you donate through there. At this point, I think we're up to $260 something towards our next $1,000 goal that we're going to put into a webcam. We already got like I think $700 at one point, and we put it on a new PC for him. I got the final 2 components for that the other day, so now we can start building that this weekend. I cleared my schedule for Saturday, so we can start building this thing, and we can get him up and running on making videos too.
I'll be over after work,
and it's gonna be good. And yeah, and then now next step is a really good digital camera, so we replace this junky webcam that we can then also take the camera into the boat, because there's a bunch of other series that I need to get done. And now that I've got my work schedule back under control to make that happen, so we're moving in the right direction. The donations are extremely helpful. So for those that have done it in the past, thank you very much. Anybody else that's considering it, I won't say no. Woods and Weeds also asked, I have 4 Lowrance Live 12s with Active Target and a Helix 9 with 360, running 5 31 series AGMs. What would a decent lithium setup be to replace all of that? That's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot.
Did you get all that?
Yeah, I think that the best setup would be 3 100 amp hour trolling batteries and then a 125 amp hour cranking battery, and that would take the place of all of that.
And that would probably save him, oh God, what, like 150 pounds out of the boat?
That's
roughly?
all lithium too, right?
Yeah.
Roughly at that much. Yeah, I mean he's running at least 350 pounds minimum with that setup, so you'd be running somewhere around 120 pounds with the lithiums.
I was gonna say he automatically loses 75-ish pounds just from going from 5 batteries to 4, removing one of those AGMs, and then
that's like 2
all the
co-anglers.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, that's literally taking a person out of the boat, but instead of your batteries.
Anybody who's skeptical about these ionic lithiums too, the greatest part about them is there's a 30-day return policy on them. They don't meet your needs, you can either exchange them or return them.
That's incredible. I did not know about that. And then you guys, there was just a crazy thing on them too, right?
We don't want everybody returning their batteries, but that is there.
Yeah, I think
nobody.
Yeah. Smallmouth Obsession. Just want to know how you figure out what a bass is on LiveScope and what is perch, etc. I catch them on screen, but can't. That's all he wrote. I know our buddy Kyle, when we were talking to him, we were fishing that new spot we have, right? I'm talking to you, Andrew.
Yeah, no, yes.
Okay.
Reading.
And I asked him that because like we were in one spot, like they were already fishing 10 minutes before we got there. Mm-hmm. And they had, what? In the time it took us, they already had 3 in the boat, and they caught like 5 more while we were just freaking loading in.
Yeah.
And they kept saying all morning after the bite died, like, there's tons of smallmouth, they're just not biting. I'm like, how the hell can you see that? He's like, I am so in tune with what I'm seeing on my active target, and I've got it dialed in so well, I can see the gill plates on the side of Is there any truth to that, Steve? Like in like getting that dialed in what you're seeing on the active target that you can easily tell species to species?
I mean, I call a little bit of BS seeing the gill plates, but
I think I think that word specifically was an exaggeration, but he said he could specifically tell the difference between a smallmouth and a trout.
You absolutely can. I mean, perch are going to school up in big schools, right? There's going to be a bunch of them. Plus, they're going to look a lot smaller. The smallmouth, from my experience, the smallmouth could be on their own, or they're going to be in groups of like 2 to maybe 8. I mean, it's pretty unusual you see any more than that. I'm not saying you couldn't, but you know, they're going to be, they just look totally different. They show up brighter. They're a bigger target. I mean, you just have to get around them to really understand it, but they just set up totally different than the perch do. And it's even like the couple spots I've been fishing on Champlain. I mean, I can tell the difference in the white perch schools versus the yellow perch schools just because of the way they school up. So it's all about just catching the fish and identifying the species and seeing how they set up. But there's no, you know, I mean, I'd have to screenshot it to really show you what I'm talking about.
That would actually make an excellent video for like a short that you could put up on everything. You know, like a 1 minute, I'll call it a 59-second video that would fit on literally everything in the easiest format. YouTube short, Instagram for regular posts, Facebook, the whole 9 yards. That would be an excellent video to put up.
And I mean, you can tell, like on the smallmouth, I was saying earlier how I wasn't casting at the smaller ones. It seems like the smaller fish school up heavier together. Like there'll be 6 to 8 of them in a school, whereas the big ones, I'm not saying they don't school up, because I've definitely had my fair share of 6 to 8 in a school of 4-pounders. But the big ones, you can typically see their tail swimming, especially when they get within like 40 feet of the boat. You can actually see their tail moving, and I call them tail waddlers. It just, when you see that waddling tail, game on.
That's impressive. Real quick, Smallmouth Freaks, thank you very much for the donation, TJ. Greatly appreciate it, dude. Andrew, I'm going to let you read the next one. When I go back to find it, it was highlighted right there from J-Bass.
J-Bass, active target. What's the difference in forward, scout, and down?
So forward mode is going to give you a picture of like a rifle scope, right? Wherever you're pointed is where you're looking. So it's a very narrow cone. It's not wide at all. It's an 18-degree cone on the active target. So basically, wherever that transducer is pointed is where you're looking. You're not getting a wide view of anything. So it's very precise. With the forward mode, you can see out in front of you. You can see directly below you. And then you can also see a little bit behind you, depending on how deep you are. So I've caught several fish behind the boat, just turning that transducer around and seeing them, you know, in forward mode, but they're actually behind the boat. Down mode is just going to be just like it sounds, directly below you. That's going to give you a little bit wider cone. I don't know the exact degrees, but it's going to give you a wider cone below you. To be honest, I never use down mode because in forward mode I can still see below me. So that's all I really care about. And then scout mode is going to give you almost like a overhead 360-ish kind of view. It's a 130-degree cone, so it's much wider. But you have to remember with scout mode, you're not capturing the full water column. So it's hard to describe here on a video, but you know, you're only looking out in front of the boat at a certain part of the water column. So it's more suitable for shallow water, for identifying isolated rock, isolated grass beds, stuff like that. That's where the scout mode really shines. But you can see fish swimming, but you're not going to see your bait as easy.
Other than those modes, can you choose like the degree where the cone is facing manually?
No. You don't have any fluctuation on where it's actually shooting.
No.
Well, what is that like manually adjustable, like 2-position mounting bracket that you put on the shaft that mounts to the transducer?
So that's just how you change it from forward, down, and scout.
Oh, okay. All right, I understand. See, I don't know a lot of this myself. I gotta learn though, because that's literally my next option. I was gonna go 2 12-foot talons because I like the idea of the compactness of a talon versus the Raptor, the power pole. But After much decisions and a lot of thought process, I want Active Target next. That's next on my list. I'll do graphs and Active Target.
Definitely more valuable than those talents, I can promise you.
Right. Well, it's hard for me because like I don't do a ton of tournament fishing, so like I'm doing it just because I'm obsessed with information gathering when we fish. Like ask Andrew. Like dude, when we're out there, he's much the same as I am. Like the first hour out there, we're just constantly talking and trying different things, and like that chess match every time is what drives me about fishing. But I spend almost the equal part of my season 50-50 fishing in inches of water versus in like 60 feet of water. So for me, it's a very easy justification to get new talons over my single 8-foot talon because I will get the use out of it. But that's just a convenience thing. And as much as it would be awesome to have, I want the information side way more. So Active Target has superseded my desire for the talons. I'll get both eventually, but Active Target's next on the list.
You will learn more in one season using live sonar than you will your entire life of fishing.
Well, for anybody that has not used side imaging, I know I did a video on this back in 2018, 3 years ago now. And that, like, even side imaging, which is, I would, is still absolutely instrumental, an incredibly useful tool for breaking down new water. And if you don't have it, like, to me, it is absolutely integral because you can cover so much water in great detail in one shot. And what really put that into perspective for me was Otter Lake, which we did a lake breakdown on. It's one of my favorite spots to go because my dad took me there when we first moved into New Hampshire when I was 8 years old. And I've been fishing there every year ever since. I love that lake. It's full of rats. It's close to home. It's just fun. It's got a bit of everything. And when I started really learning how to use things, and we got the Ranger, and I got my first, I forget what it was. I don't even have the box anymore. What were the original Lowrance square units? The like LMX 5 somethings when they first became colored?
Yeah, the LCX.
Yeah, so I got one of those from one of the tournament guys. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. $50. Guy cut me a great deal. My first real graph on the boat. And I'm going along, and like between my polarized sunglasses and that, I'm finding boulders during a drought one year. And I'm like, this is amazing. I never knew there's boulders on this. And for the next 3 years, I use that graph, and some days I just, zigzag and just 2D sonar. I'd find a boulder here, a boulder there, and I'd mark them. And I want to say it took me the better part of 4 seasons before I felt I found every significant boulder over, 800-foot stretch?
Probably, yeah.
And then, Steve, when I bought those Lowrance units for you, the HDSs, and you tried like hell to get all of those waypoints off my old Elite series. Because I got that too. And tried to get all those waypoints off of that onto my HDS. We couldn't. And you're like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to either run the two of them together or just try and go remark everything. I decided to go remark everything. I had side imaging for the first time. I replicated 4 seasons worth of efforts in 20 minutes.
Yep.
With side imaging.
Yep. Bing, 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 bing.
One friggin' pass in 20 minutes is what it took me 4 years to do with 2D sonar.
That's definitely a great point because, I've fished a couple new little smaller lakes in New Hampshire. And what I do now is I spend, these aren't big lakes, but they're lakes I know nothing about. And I'll spend an hour or 2 hours of the day just side scanning the first hour or two. It's nothing harder than going to a new lake and sitting behind the steering wheel, right? Because all you want to do is fish. But yeah. I'll spend that hour or two side scanning in both of these lakes. And I don't fish a lot in New Hampshire, but both of these lakes, I have absolutely smashed them just from spending an hour or two behind the steering wheel.
Yep. Okay, so before I get back to the chat, that's to me, that's a great way to segue into this question. If somebody came to you tomorrow, I just bought my first bass boat, I've got like $1,000 to spend on electronics, what would you tell them to get? Like the most integral things to put on their boat to, with their goal in mind, like I want to learn everything I can. What are you going to tell them to put on their boat?
Yeah, I would say get a couple units that have, the back unit having side imaging, and then the front unit, all you need is mapping and sonar. But that would be on a budget, that would be the 2 most critical things, is having the side imaging and mapping.
Yep, I wholeheartedly agree. That side imaging, when you first get it, it really completely changes what you can do. just being able to break down water so much faster. And I keep going back to that point that one friggin' lake I fished my whole life. I mean, until I even got a graph, I didn't know those boulders existed. And then when I got side imaging, I refound everything in 20 minutes, and I found, like, I basically doubled the amount of stuff I found in that same
pass. There's a lot more
pass.
stuff down there than I thought there was.
Right, and it's like, what the hell? I can't believe I was missing out on all this time. John Mango in the chat asked, looking for my first graph for my canoe. I've had a few people suggest the Helix 5. Is that a good option?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
I think the Helix 5 is a little overpriced for what it is. I would more recommend like a Garmin Echo Map 9-inch. That's more affordable.
Garmin. Aren't our ice ones Garmin?
Yeah, it's up there. The Garmin Striker 4, I think?
Yeah. Yeah, 4.
Yeah,
4.
Striker, the entry level. The reason why I say the Garmin 9-inch is there's a lot of those have been on clearance. So if you can get your hands on one of those for the $600 to $800, I think that Helix 5 is around $500. I'm pretty sure for the side imaging model. If you're looking for something with side imaging, you're not going to be able to see anything on a 5-inch screen, and that's the reason I say that.
That's a good point. Wow, we are way behind. Kraken also asked, why the Elite over the PHX? That was like 10 minutes ago. Sorry, guys. There's a lot to elaborate on with every question. But I am curious about that, too. Why the Elite over the PHX for your next boat?
So first of all, the PHX was more money. It was quite a bit more money. I think it was $3 to $5 grand more.
Oh.
And the PHX has raised gunnels, and I just felt like when I'm flipping and stuff, I really don't want those raised gunnels. So that was the decision maker there.
That's a good call.
Yeah, I like that call.
Kotu asked, do I really need a GPS to keep my heading correct?
You have to have GPS to have heading. So yes, you would. If you want true heading, you need a heading sensor like a 0.1 or a AS GPS HS from Humminbird, something like that to give you true heading.
That's what I'm thinking he meant by that. So, do you only need the one, or like bare minimum you need one, but if you have two, it like really keeps your heading like perfect. So you know where your arrow is on your graph is like always true. Is that what you're saying?
Do you run one on the front, one on the back?
Well, because I went to all low rants because the previous owner had Humminbird, and I've got two of those Humminbird pucks.
Right, there's one
on the
back,
boat,
right, and there's one on the front.
Yep. But now on low rants, I don't have any of those pucks. So my heading, like when we're dead still, my arrow's like all over the place.
Yeah, I'm watching the graph. I'm like, where the hell are we? Is it that way or
pointing
that way? I don't know where we are.
Until you get some speed, it doesn't tell you which way you're actually pointing.
Right.
So is it really that big of an interest to have two? Like, is two necessary, or can you get away with one?
So my opinion on that whole thing is you really only need one on the front, and somebody else might disagree with me, but I don't see the point of putting one on the back because the internal GPS is perfectly accurate enough to waypoint off of side imaging and stuff. In my experience, it can get you within 5 feet. So I've had bad luck putting it on the back when I'm making long runs at Champlain. Like it just wasn't perfectly accurate. It was more accurate using the internal GPS on long runs on the back unit. So I choose to just put one on the front because essentially when I'm standing on the front deck, I don't care if that back unit's spinning around because I'm not looking at it. So the front unit is where I care when I'm on the trolling motor, right? I don't want my map spinning all over the place. I want to know exactly where I'm pointed. So that's why I tend to just talk customers into putting one on the front. I feel that's where it's more critical.
Gotcha. All right, makes sense. Real quick before Andrew reads the next question, Kevin donated $5. Thank you very much. Puts us at $20 for the night.
Thank you, sir.
Which I believe puts us at $270 now. We're well on our way towards our goal of that $1,000. You know, if we get close enough, I'll foot the rest of it myself. But I really do want to get close because I'm in the red on this channel from over the years. So if I could, you know, it's like seriously, the community support, especially just from the live streams, has been insane. So I can't thank you guys enough for getting us there and helping us march towards those next goals.
Yes, huge.
Yeah. All right, you're up. Nicholas Frumkin.
Nick Frumkin. What types of areas are you looking for when you had all that success on Champlain? Depth, structure, etc.
So the success that I had on Champlain recently is something that I'd never found in the past. And, I'm not going to share every little detail of it, but I will say it's all bait orientated. So, I'm fishing a lot of water 20 to 30 feet deep and essentially just looking for bait. And that was something different that I've never done on Champlain. I wasn't just looking for rock piles or grass lines, stuff like that. I mean, I was strictly looking for bait, and that's where all of this recent success has come from, is fishing around bait with the live sonar.
Everybody watching that has been watching previous streams, I hope that validates everything Andrew and I have been saying for months now. Follow the bait.
Find the bait, find fish.
Yep. And you can fish structure and it's a whole lot easier, but if you can get comfortable just chasing around bait, and to a point I made, and Steve, I'd love for you to elaborate on what I'm about to say here. You don't have to fish in the bait. Sometimes you can get away with that. You'll see those bass bomb right through the bait balls. But if they're not, doesn't mean the bass aren't there. Sometimes they're roaming around the outsides of them, not too far away. So as long as you're marking the bait, most of the time you're in the right area. You just got to kind of expand upon what you're doing if you can't drop down through them and getting bit.
Yeah, like you're at a party and there's a buffet. You're drinking, you're hanging out, and you're getting hungry. You're hanging around that thing.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? I'm not going back to one specific waypoint every time I've been going out there over the last month. I'm chasing down the bait, whether it's a mile away, 2 miles away, or 500 feet away. I'm fishing the bait, and you hit the nail on the head there. You don't have to see your screen light up with perch from top to bottom and think this is the mother lode, but they are somewhere around that bait, and I can 100% confirm that over the last month. Like, if you see the bait real tight together, though, there's a reason that they're real tight together. That's because those smallies are pushing them around. You know what I mean? And that's where that live sonar shines, because you can tell if there's feeding fish around the bait or not just by the way the bait's set up.
That's an incredible perspective that I never had the opportunity to think of, because you can't always tell that on 2D sonar. I mean, you can see when they get dense and stuff, but without that added level of like, oh wow, that bait ball is like it's tight, but it's so dense. Oh wow, there's like a couple smallies cruising around it. Having that added level of information kind of helps put the pieces of the puzzle together. On 2D, you see
all the ocean videos, all the bait gets swirled up and pushed together. There's shit pushing them in.
Don't watch saltwater.
I do. I watch everything.
Well, you need to elaborate on these things.
I just see it, I think of it, and I'm like, ooh, there's probably fish in there.
Well, so to further elaborate on that, then, Steve, before we go back to the chat, on average, especially this time of the year, because I'm sure it varies with different times of the year and different water temps, maybe even what type of forage the bass are relating to. Like, on average, if they're not inside the or like right on top of the bait fish, how far away do you see them where they're still kind of relating to that bait ball? Like, have you ever experienced, say, a bait ball and then like a little cluster of a couple of good-sized smallmouth that are like 100 feet off, which I feel like would be kind of far, but they maintain that as everything's shifting? Or is that distance a little bit closer, or does it vary? Because again, I would never know with only 2D sonar.
Yeah, I mean, that all changes throughout the day. I mean, I've watched them over the last month actively swimming through the bait balls and eating the bait. I mean, you can actually see them going through and feeding on it. But then other times they're just hanging out. I mean, I couldn't put a distance on it. I mean, sometimes they're nowhere near the bait, but they're gonna be in that general area, whether it's 100 feet, 500 feet, 500 yards. They're gonna be in that general area of the bait.
Gotcha. All right. Josh Herding asked, have you tried running two active target, one in scout mode and one in forward mode?
So that was my original thought going into the season. I actually wired my boat for 2 active targets before anybody had even mentioned 2 active targets. And that was the plan, to have one in scout mode and one in forward mode. But after I used scout mode heavily when I went down to Virginia to fish the BASS Northern Open down there, and I just determined scout mode wasn't for me. I just found 360 and combined with with forward active target would be much more valuable. So that's the path I chose.
I could see that you're finding the structure than finding the fish on the structure.
Exactly. It's because 360 is going to give you that full view all the way around. Your scout mode, yeah, it's giving you a nice wide view, but it's still only 130-degree cone. So, you know, the 360, you don't have to touch it, though. That's just constantly working on its own, and it's just much easier to combine that with live sonar.
Such a sick setup, though.
It really is.
Oh. So, Tifos17 has a question. How about some more beginner level questions? How do I know if it's mud bottom, sand bottom, or rock bottom? Or small rock bottom? I barely know all my buttons do so far. Wait, I barely know what all my buttons do so far.
Which is an excellent question, by the way.
It is.
Because I was just teaching for those that are new to the stream, I'm a high school bass fishing coach. And I started tryouts for my team last week, and 3 of my anglers are completely green. And I've got, you know, my Sonar up front, my 360, and even on 360, you can tell the difference between what your bottom composition is. Mm-hmm. So being able to kind of explain that to them and really point it out with, like, just the differences in colors, it helps kind of point it out. But I want to hear Steve elaborate on this.
I know my Wi-Fi kind of sucks. You guys still hear me okay?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. So the easiest way to distinguish the bottom, you know, being hard, soft, all that is through side imaging. So on side imaging, a softer mud bottom is going to show up really dark and with not a lot of definition, and then a hard bottom is going to show up really bright. And rocks are really pretty obvious. I mean, you're going to physically see the rocks on the side imaging. So that's, you know, a lot of times if you spend a lot of time behind the steering wheel and you idle like a rock shoal, you're going to clearly see where it transitions from a rock bottom to mud bottom just based off the bright return versus the dark return. So that side imaging it really makes that easy.
Yep. And from my perspective, Mega 360 or even 360 in general, because what made me get Mega 360 was fishing in my buddy Will's boat when he had just regular 360. And even that, you can tell the difference too. Like, to me, it's very clear to be able to see that difference in contrast between a soft, mucky bottom, how it's all broken up and patchy when it's vegetation, and then a really bright return for a harder, firmer bottom, whether it be sand or rock, you know, things of that nature. And then rocks get a little bit easier because you get, you know, the bright color from the hard return and then the dark color behind it because of the shadow where the sonar just can't read it.
Yeah, it just looks like a picture. When you see the rocks, it's like, oh, there they are. There's no mistaking it.
Right.
Kevin's got a question. Garmo Echo Map fish finders. Can you upgrade them with better map software?
So you can add map cards to them. Like the Echo Maps, let's say like a 10-inch, for example, comes in a 102 SV or a 106 SV. The 106 SV has the built-in maps. The 102 SV wouldn't. You can add a Garmin Echo Map Ultra Lake card to that, and that's going to give you a little more definition than the built-in map, so you can also run a Navionics as well.
Interesting. All right. Real quick. Tall guy, Mr. Eli Raymond, with another donation. The biggest donation of the night, $25.
Thank you, sir.
Dude, thank you very much. Also, as a side note, Eli went out of his way to help one of our really good friends, DJ, who owns an absolutely killer sandwich shop called Real Deal Deli in Charlestown, New Hampshire.
So good. Oh, my God.
Recently ran into some issues with his landlord, and unfortunately he's been kicked out of the facility. It's an ugly situation. At no fault of his own. I'm 99% sure legal action is being pursued by DJ. But in the meantime, his business that he had now he's in a bind. He has to try and find somewhere new to go. And Eli took it upon himself to set up a GoFundMe. Anybody that's, you know, follows me on Instagram or Facebook, I've posted it there. Like, the link is still there in my Instagram profile. If you want to go there, that's probably the easiest way to get it. John, if you're still here in the chat, or you can find it, go ahead and throw that in here too. If anybody's interested, like, I've already thrown $100 down of my personal money to help my buddy out. Probably gonna throw more in there. And donate my time if he needs it, man, to go up there and get him sorted. But Eli's a wicked nice guy. Like, he went out of his way to set this up to help out a buddy, a fellow angler in need, to get him back on his feet, just because of a stupid, ugly situation. So, just kind of elaborating on that. But, again, Eli, tall guy, 3,041. Thank you very much, buddy. Well, 300. I was close. Big John's Bassin did ask, Mega 360 or Ford or just 360? That is an excellent question. And I'm pretty sure I know your answer, Steve, but have at it. Give him a second. His Wi-Fi's poopy.
Hold on. You gotta say whatever.
A little delayed.
Again.
It's all good. Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I mean, 360, it really depends on how you fish. If you're a shallow water, largemouth guy, go with 360. I think that's going to be more beneficial to you. But if you're going to fish in 6 feet of water or more, and more of a smallmouth offshore guy, you don't have to be a smallmouth guy, just offshore in general. Live sonar, 100%, no questions asked, is going to be the better technology.
So at this point, where you're kind of doing a bit of everything, will you consider going back to adding both, or you're all done with 360 and you're good with just having live sonar?
So, I mean, I still have 360 on the boat.
Oh, I thought you were taking it off. No, I'm thinking of somebody else. I'm sorry.
I have not had my Humminbird head unit on my boat for the last month, but the 360 is still on there.
I can see the appeal because, like, I have worked very hard since I expanded beyond what my dad taught me until I was at 20-something years old of 4-inch T-rig black rubber worm, and I want to expand upon that. And I really, like, I thought I got to the point where I knew a lot, and then I joined a club in 2011, and I realized I knew absolute crap. And ever since then, the last 10 years, I have worked hard to become a very complete fisherman. So for me, I want both, because I enjoy fishing for largemouth in the thickest crap in 6 inches of water just as much as I like fishing for smallmouth in 60 feet of water. I mean, case in point, just a couple weeks ago, we did a swim bait only tournament, so nothing but big baits. Minimum 6 inches for soft bodies and 5 inches for hard bodies. And we grinded that for 8 hours straight.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was awesome, and we did well. We finished third in that tournament for something we've never done before.
Yeah,
like we fish them, but never like that.
Right.
And then the next day, 12 hours after the end of that tournament, I was back out there in 40-ish feet of water with my drop shot rod plucking smallies.
Yep.
Like, I love the fact that I can do both, and I want to do that. So for me, I can't, like, it's going to be Mega 360 and Ford, and that's my goal. Because I like to do everything. I don't want to be hindered in any way. Like, I don't live by tournament fishing, so I don't need to rely on one over the other. Man, I want everything. I want to be able to actively target fish as I'm going along, but as I'm also finding spots like, oh, hey, there's a rock over there, Andrew. 50 feet. Get it.
Okay, 4-pounder.
Oh, hey, move spots.
I'm hoping I'm going to have better up here.
There you go. I like it. What do we miss here? John. Oh, John with the $26 donation. Thank you, sir.
I shall not be outdonated by $1. You're a piece of shit. Thank you.
There was a question that was already covered. Oh, Benjamin Walden asked, what gauge wire for wiring your electronics, which you did cover, but I get, just to reiterate again, just so we have it in here again, what do you recommend? Just a quick overview. You don't have to get into the finer details, but depending on what you're adding, like if you're adding a 3rd, 4th, and 5th graph, I don't know, go for it. Whatever you think is a quick way to summarize what wire gauge to use.
So, I mean, it really depends, but what we've recently started doing, and I'm talking within the last week, we're installing these C-Clear harnesses, and they're all 8-gauge wires. So there's one run of 8-gauge that goes from the battery to the console, and then another run of 8-gauge from the battery to the bow. And that's really the easiest end-all solution. If you want to just do it once and never have to worry about it down the road, then that's what we recommend. But before, we were doing 8-gauge to a fuse panel under the dash and then feeding 10-gauge off the fuse panel. So neither one of those is right or wrong, but the 8-gauge is the easiest solution to never have to worry about it again.
Nice. Actually, I remember I bought wiring from you for my friend Kristen, because she went from a 12-volt to a 24-volt setup on her tracker. And when I started asking the questions to you and a couple other people, everyone's like, yeah, you got to get either 6-gauge or 8-gauge and run it for the trolling mode. Which is, still, I know we're talking like electronics, but to me, trolling motors kind of fit in that bill. I'm actually kind of shocked we haven't had that many trolling motor questions yet.
Right.
That probably is my fault from the thumbnail because it's just all 3 graphs. But I digress. And I just assumed because it was tracker and their budget build boats that it was going to have not the correct gauge wiring. Until I dove into it and I realized they ran 6 gauge front to back for the trolling motor. And I was like, oh, I did not need this wiring harness.
So yeah, that was actually a question I wanted to ask you. Would 6 gauge be enough for a 36 volt system?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I went with.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it was... You could even get away with 8 gauge for a 36 volt trolling motor, right? Or is that kind of towing the line?
No, 8 gauge wouldn't be enough. You'd want 6.
Okay, and then 4 would also be good, but borderline overkill?
Yeah, 4, if you had to make a really long run, but in a bass boat, that you're not going to need any more than 6 gauge.
Okay, what would you consider a really long run that you would want?
I mean, we have come across that, but Garmin has a manual with they have like a chart for their trolling motor, and I think it's like 30 feet or more you need 4 gauge.
Okay. Interesting. Good to know.
Gotcha. 30 feet boat. I was like, that's not a long run. Run miles.
Well, you think about it, like, especially, have you rigged up and I doubt it because of where we are, have you rigged up a Ranger Z522D yet? Because now you're 22 feet.
We've just rigged a couple BX21 Vexuses, and those are 22-foot boats.
Okay, and I mean, even at that point, you're probably still not even touching 30 feet. Probably getting close. You figure in like all the bends and everything, and the little extra loop for servicing in the future. Like, how much wire are you running in those instances?
Yeah, I mean, those boats are already wired, but I mean, a 26-foot harness is what we just installed in the one today, and so that made it from front to back 26 feet.
Wow, nice. All right. I'll let you grab Jeff's question.
Jeff Perrin has a question. How do you run the 360 with a right height? Do they interfere?
So you'll get a small dead spot from the 360 because it's gonna hit the trolling motor and the pole right when it circles around, but it's negligible. I mean, it's fine. You can still. We've done that on a couple boats, but we had to shim it with some washers to get it to all level out properly. But it worked fine, and like I said, you'll get those couple little dead spots from the trolling motor and the turret pole. But a lot of guys run that setup, and it works great.
T-Full17 again has another question. He's trying to learn your secrets. What's been Steve's most successful smallie technique recently? You don't have to answer.
He already has, though. I'm going to let him answer stuff, but he's posted in every single Facebook post after he's won a tournament.
I haven't been shy, and guys could think I'm full of crap or not, but every single fish, and this is no lie, every single fish in every tournament that I've won in the last month and a half has been caught on a hog pours, hand-poured custom bait. It's Randy Burton out of Wisconsin pours them, called a hog teaser. And I'd rotate a few different colors, but every single one of them has come on that on a drop shot with a half-ounce weight.
Drop shot. Nice.
I was about to ask him a question, but I don't want to dive into the specifics because beyond that, now you're getting into the nuances of what sets you apart from everybody else. So that everybody else is going to live with that. Dan Scanlon did say, Mega 360 LiveScope is deadly. Thank you to Steve for setting me up. So there's another shout out for you, Steve. Kevin. Lost it. Went on a new lake looking for smallies. Are you using side scan? And what are you looking for when you find what you're looking for? And when do you use Active Target to dial in the smallies?
So, I mean, a good example is I'll go back to that conversation we were having earlier where I go in and side scan these new ponds, right? And for smallmouth in the summertime, what I've learned in New Hampshire anyways, and I'm not talking about Winnie, I'm just talking about the smaller lakes I fished. I'm honestly not looking for structure or anything different. I'm just roaming around out in the middle of nowhere and 20 to 40 feet of water and just using my Active Target. And that's how I've caught the biggest and most smallies in New Hampshire in the summertime.
I could see that. So you're just kind of hanging out, cruising around.
Right.
not holding the structure. They're just cruising looking for bait balls.
Right.
The bigger fish do that.
Well, and especially when you're talking about Champlain, because the added element to Champlain versus almost everything else in New England is that it has a very healthy population of alewives. And that's different because those, unless I'm mistaken, but I'm trying to go off of what I remember from talking to people, both my friend Dennis, who fished, he's been fishing Champlain his entire life, and then the Beast Coast guys down on Candlewood, because they both have a ton of alewives. But those are, their behavior and their movement patterns are a little bit different from pretty much anything else you could find that's, you know, your typical forage in New England. Am I correct in that? Like they roam more compared to everything else?
I don't know. I mean, I've been fishing these smaller lakes in New Hampshire that I mean, they're kind of doing the same thing. They're just roaming around chasing bait. I mean, this small pond that I consider my little honey hole, I haven't told anybody about. I mean, the last time I went there, this pond is tiny. I caught 5 smallies over 4 pounds, and I was just literally roaming around in the middle of nowhere chasing them down with Active Target.
Okay, I need that now. Do you take credit card?
And I've been able to replicate that pattern on 2 other ponds in New Hampshire, so it's definitely not like a one-off thing. I mean, they're just roaming around.
I want to bring you to my aunt.
Which one? The new one?
Newer one. The one my mom told me about.
Yeah, dude. Like, if you're interested, like, we'd love to take you out to a small pond that we've been fishing recently, and I want to see that Active Target in play there, just because of the specific things we've seen, and I just want to see what you can, like, what can someone with your level of knowledge and all of the tools at hand, what can you do for damage there?
We don't have to fish. I just want to see.
Right? It'd be a good learning experience. That's for damn sure.
If it's got smallies in it and it's a small pond, you can find it.
Smallies and largies.
Yeah.
And bigs of both.
And one giant largie.
The place is nuts. All right, that was Kevin's question. We got past that. Oh, wait. Where was it? Oh, Benjamin Weldon. Opinion on when and where to use a circuit breaker. That's a great question.
So a circuit breaker should always be used if we're talking about a main circuit breaker in line with your electronics per se. That should always be used within 6 to 8 inches of the battery. That's where you want the main circuit breaker. And then you want to fuse as close to the unit as possible. So your fuse should be, the first thing in line with the power cable coming out of the unit. So typically what you would have is let's say like a 5 amp fuse for a 5 or a 12-inch craft would be at the end of the power cable. And then back in the bilge area, you would have a main fuse, either a main fuse or a main breaker, like a 20 amp or a 30 amp breaker or fuse for the entire electronic circuit, just in case something catastrophic happened with the battery. That big fuse would blow first, and then the fuse that's closest to the unit would be your last point of protection for the head unit.
You're reminding me from when I dropped my boat off, when I first bought both of my Lowrance units, and you rigged up them for me because you definitely had somebody to control it. And I remember the conversation, you had said, hey, when you get time, you need to bring this back so I can fix your wiring for you because it's a mess down there. It's still a mess, and I need to bring my boat to you this winter. Like, it's bad. And I'm positive I don't have any breakers in there or anything, and it's like, that's that next thing I got to get done just to kind of protect my overall investment and just clean things up because, who knows when I'll be able to upgrade. I'm hoping if my career over the next year or two goes the way that right now it's looking, like things will be good, and hell, I might be able to buy your boat at the end of next year and still have a new truck. Like, that'd be mint. But I always plan for worst case scenario, and I'm intending right now, this is the last boat I ever own. So I want to make sure I take care of it while I have the money and make sure everything's kosher so I don't have to worry about it. I'd rather get ahead of it.
Jump in the damn thing.
That's different.
Just kidding, that's fine.
That touches on a point real quick I wanted to throw out there too. A lot of guys, in the wintertime, they don't think about their boats, but we got a brand new shop set up here. It's going to be fully heated and everything. So anybody that wants work done, we're probably going to offer a little bit better labor rates through the winter because we're not going to be as busy. So if you need some install work done, definitely reach out to us.
if all goes well, I'll have about 6 weeks where I'm not using my boat this winter again, like last winter. So I got to try and
4.
We're ideally 4. I'm gonna hopefully get in that with you in that 4-week window to get everything straightened up and get me ready back out there the middle of February this year.
Yeah.
I'm no joke. I'm actively looking for some form of commercial space for myself and several friends that all own boats somewhere. I literally just came up with this today, talking to our buddy Kyle, because he's got to work on his boat too.
All right.
I want to try and find some form of commercial space that offers heat and electricity and otherwise just stripped. One bay door that we can fit the boats in so I can keep them warm through the winter. So also a spot to clean the damn thing, smell the road salt when we're out there in December and January and February and March. And yeah.
And
if I can,
all year.
Right, it'd be great. But there's still like electrical, I'm not touching. I've never done anything electrical because that's way outside my comfort zone. It's like, I don't trust myself.
Power ground, you're good to go.
No. This is why Steve is here. This is why Steve has earned every penny for anything electrical, because he knows it. I don't. I don't trust myself. Joey had another question. Can you talk about charging your batteries? Prolong battery life, or disconnect tow motor when charging, etc.?
So that's really going to depend on the type of batteries that you have. And I'll be the first to admit I'm no battery expert, but with the lithiums, we recommend charging those up and then leaving them. There's no need to leave them plugged in all the time, especially through the winter and all that. Maybe you could top them off once or twice through the winter, but there's no need to leave them plugged in. Your lead acids and AGMs, I mean, really just go with manufacturer's recommendations. But different chargers are designed to be left plugged in with those batteries, and a lot of guys will, just leave them plugged in through the whole winter. I'm not crazy about that idea, just because if something ever failed, then you're prone to causing a fire. But,
yep.
The biggest recommendation I have, don't leave your batteries out in the extreme cold, whether they're lead, AGM, lithium. Just don't leave them out in the cold, because the cold does terrible things to your boat. So
straight on concrete.
Well, yeah, especially straight on concrete. What about Smattis? Do you know how much it costs to build a garage in New Hampshire, man? Come on. What about in my case, where I'm using my boat every weekend, but my boat is stored outside, so it's still getting cold. But when I come back from fishing, I charge it and I leave it on the trickle charger for the next usually 3 days, because I know they're going to drain down a little bit being in the cold, or at least that was what I've always been told. But I don't leave them plugged in all week. But they're active. Excuse me again, for about 3 of the 7 days, and then I'm back out fishing again. Like, is that okay, or am I still kind of running the risk of issues there when I'm storing my boat outside when it's 0 degrees overnight?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you've got it stored outside and you're only going 6-7 days in between, I'd probably just leave it plugged in at that point. I'm talking about prolonged periods, leaving it plugged in for a month, 2 months. I'm just not crazy about that idea, but there's no science or facts involved with that statement, so that's just a personal preference.
Gotcha. Good point. Jeff Perrin asks again, why did you go Phoenix over Skeeter?
So there was a few different factors there. The number one reason that I was leaning towards switching brands was because my current Skeeter FXR I'm only getting about 68 miles an hour out of it, and that's slower than any Skeeter I've ever had. Not that I'm a speed demon, but I wanted something that would run in the 70s, so that was one of the factors. The second factor is Skeeter. You can't call customer service and talk to them. It has to go through your dealer. And I really didn't like that idea. And then the third thing that really pushed me was this latest Toyota win. They didn't pay out my $5,000 Skeeter real money. Right, wrong, or indifferent. If you disagree with me on that, that's fine. But I felt like I was entitled to that money, and I just thought that's a big money grab on their end to not pay that out, and it just didn't sit right with me. So I guess that's the 3 factors in switching.
Yep, I understand that.
Nothing against the boat. This Skeeter FXR is probably the best boat I've ever been in, to be honest. But I'm just ready for a change.
Yep. What are you going for on the motor? That was actually a question, because I know Skeeter only does Yamaha, but Phoenix does everything.
Yeah, so with the pandemic right now, you can't really get Yamaha, so I was kind of forced to get a Mercury.
If you had the choice, would you have stayed with the show?
I don't know. It's not this. The show is more expensive, so I think I'd like to try the Mercury. I have to admit, I think that Mercury is ugly as hell, but um, I do like that roar when it starts up.
Oh
so.
my god, that
Yeah, it sounds so good.
makes my pants tight every time I hear somebody fire that thing up.
I hear my whoa.
What you doing down there, little buddy? It's okay. It's just another Mercury.
Back.
There was a question I had in relation to something we were already talking about, but I don't remember it now because we went back to that. Jeff actually had another question. What's your schedule looking like for next season with just tournaments in general? Specifically, he said the Northern Bass Opens or the Toyota Series. And what are your future goals? Are you now considering maybe making a run at the Elites, or are you just not even remotely interested in trying to get to that level?
No, I mean, I have 0% interest in going with this at the professional level. I mean, one of my dad's best friends is Blue Daves. He won the Bassmaster Classic back in 2000, and I've known him since I was a little kid and got to talk to him a lot about pro fishing, along with several other guys that do this professionally. And it's not a lifestyle that I dreamed of. It's not something that fits in with family, and I'm happy with where I'm at right now. We're actually get a big announcement coming at the end of September. A lot of people don't realize, but I work 2 jobs right now, so I'm going all in on Bassfishin Electronics on September 30th. So.
Hell yeah! I knew that was coming soon enough, man. You've been so busy with this.
A huge announcement. That's the first time I've really told anything to the public, but we're really excited about that, and that's kind of where my mind's at right now. I tentatively plan on fishing the whole Toyota Series next year, but I'm waiting for the BASS Northern Open schedule to come out because there's rumors of them fishing Champlain. I don't know where else they'll be fishing, so my plan is to fish, either the BASS Opens or the Toyota Series along with the Champlain Bass Series. But I want to focus on the business. I don't want to take away from the business, so I'm not gonna try to travel too much because my main focus right now is getting this business off the ground and offering the best service we can.
That's awesome, man. Congrats. Well earned, not deserved, earned. You've busted your ass to build that business to where it is now. I'd like to think I helped. I'm kidding. No.
We've had a lot of there's been several local guys behind us, and also Lawrence. I want to give them a big shout out. Garmin and Humminbird never once reached out to me from the beginning and stood behind me, and Lawrence has been behind me from the beginning and helped me grow this business to what it is. So a huge shout out to the local guys. I'm going to be straight up honest with you guys. I never thought in a million years we'd have enough business to do this full time, and you guys have stepped up. You've put your trust in me, and not to sound all sappy and emotional, but it's really huge to have the local support that we've had here.
That's awesome, man. I mean, like, I'd like to think that at this point, Andrew and I have been very honest and consistent since day one. We don't just promote people for the sake, or businesses for the sake of anything. Like, no. If we talk about something, we mean it. We live it. Like Steve, with everything you've done, everything I said at the beginning of the stream, about how you helped me out, like that, there's no bullshit. It's all 100% honest. And literally everything that I share, because I keep reiterating this point, I don't need this. I do this 100% for fun. I don't need this money. I have a very lucrative career on the side. And if I dedicate even more time to it, it can be even more lucrative, but I have found a happy balance between my career and then doing this for fun. So, because of that, like, I don't need to say things to get free money or endorsements for anybody else. Like, I do it because I am genuinely trying to help others. We are genuinely trying to help others. So everything I said about you from the get-go, for anybody watching at this point, like, it's no bullshit. It is 100% dead honest. Like, I put 100% of my name and reputation behind Steve and everything he does. The dude's legit. His business is awesome. He knows his shit. I cannot recommend him enough. He's absolutely earned everything he's got.
We I really appreciate that, and I want customers to feel that way if they come to me. I'm not going to push you to one brand or another based off of some financial gain. I mean, I really hope our customer, and I know they realize that. I'm not a bullshitter. I'm a straight shooter. And if I think Lowrance put out a shitty product, I'd tell you that they put out a shitty product. I'm not loyal to one specific thing just for financial gain. I mean, I want to be straight up with all the customers we deal with, and I feel like that's why we're in the position we're in right now.
Like I said, man, you've earned it.
Yeah, seriously.
Is there any other questions you want to ask? Like, I've been paying attention to the chat. This
I
is
know,
all
I've been
that's
staring
going
at the
on.
chat the whole time.
I mean, there was a ton of questions, but I think we may have shot ourselves in the foot because we weren't keeping up with it enough.
Right.
But I don't regret that, because what we were talking about with Steve that whole time, everything that he was able to elaborate on, was all vitally important information. I don't feel like we went off track like we do sometimes,
Right.
but I think we did great tonight. I've given everybody plenty of opportunities to keep asking questions. I'll give it 5 more minutes, people. If you start railing off questions, Steve, if you got time, we'll keep going at this. But if the questions start dying off, then we can start wrapping this up pretty soon. There was a question that I wanted to ask.
I had a question too, and I was thinking about it the other day, and I forget what it is now. Because I was sitting out back, looking at my boat. I was sitting like, I really wish I could get that to work. I forget what it was.
Something
electronic, like.
I remember my question.
Forget. Something with the trolling motor.
We talked, like, the whole point of this was everything electronics, right? Like, right in the thumbnail, top left center, it says everything electronics. One of the things we really haven't covered that I really want to hear your insight on is chargers, if that's something you feel comfortable to speak upon. If you do, what do you recommend for an entry level, mid level, and like highest tier for chargers for bass boats out there?
So chargers are kind of all over the place right now. I mean, it's going to depend on if you want it for lithium or not, right? I think Minn Kota is probably the most readily available and popular one. I've seen my fair share of issues with those. We offer an ionic charger that'll charge lithium, AGM, and lead acid. I'm going to be honest, we've had some issues with the ionic charger, so it's not the perfect solution, but it is probably one of the cheaper 4-bank solutions out there. So that's probably the best entry level, but I don't know that it's the most reliable. The latest one that's come onto the market is the NOCO Gen 4 lithium charger. We've been selling a lot of those because those will work with lithium, AGM, and lead acid, and those are like $450 for a 4-bank.
I mean, they make good products anyway. They have that. It's like a power bank.
Yeah.
Jumper pack attachment. And you can jump a diesel truck with it, and it's this freaking big.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what I put in Kristen's boat, in Kristen's tracker when she upgraded to the 4-Trex.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure she got a NOCO.
Yeah. Those are good.
Yeah. Chargers up in the air right now because there's so much new technology out there with like the power pole charge, but we've seen a lot of issues with the power pole charge as well. So I don't have a great recommendation other than the NOCO is probably my favorite right now.
I have the yellow one. The yellow.
Oh, Pro Mariner? Is that right?
Yeah.
Or is that, I don't know if that's the make or the model.
Yellow. I don't know. It works great. So actually no. I got it wet.
The first one.
The first one I got wet.
And it died like immediately.
It literally wouldn't charge again. And it was the first use I've ever had. I charged it once, charged my whole system once, went out, got wet, and the charger was junk. So I went back, I called them, they sent me a new one for free.
Yeah, so these are customer service. They were right on it too.
Yeah,
you didn't have to jump through any hoops for that.
Had it to me in 2 days.
Yep.
3 days.
That
good to go.
Makes an excellent another question for follow-up. As far as all of your electronics go, and we'll just speak to graphs because I do have another question for you about trolling motors, something else we didn't really talk about enough tonight. But as far as graphs go, where do you rank the big 3 for customer service?
I would say Garmin probably has the best customer service out of all 3. Lowrance has a really bad reputation because the public has to call in and get first-tier customer support. And I'll give you that. Their first-tier customer support is a joke. It's a bunch of people who don't even know what a fish finder is, and they're just reading off a script. But once you get past that first-tier support, their second tier support and the top tiers are phenomenal. They're regular people that use this stuff, and they're very knowledgeable to help out on anything. So if you can get to that second tier, I'd say Lowrance is number 2, if not even number 1, if you can get past that first level. And then Humminbird, I haven't had to deal with a lot. I don't have a lot of great contacts with them, so I've heard a lot of mixed reviews, good and bad. So
I'll call you.
Steve, help!
I say that with Lowrance, I can, if you buy units through me, I can promise you I can expedite any issues.
Nice, good to know. Go ahead. I have another question about tow motors, but
Like Rich, I have Humminbirds which came on my boat. Not a big fan. Want to switch over to Lowrance. Financially thinking, would you start by getting one Lowrance with Active Target, or switch to the 2 over first?
Oh, so I'm thinking he probably means two graphs and then low Active Target, or one graph with Active Target and then get the second graph down the road.
Yeah.
I would probably say, if you got Humminbirds at work, I would say keep the one at the console, use that one and add the Active Target and Lowrance to the front. I think that would be more beneficial than anything.
I like it.
Get Active Target for my the only graph on my boat is just Active Target.
Yeah, okay. Rogue Trader asked, where in New Hampshire are you located?
We're in Auburn, New Hampshire, just outside of Manchester, right? We're a mile from Massachusetts.
Very easy to find. What would
Not
you say?
at night, it isn't. When it's your first time going there.
Yeah,
What the hell is this guy's house?
You need a bigger sign out front. I mean, I don't. I know where you live, but
I know now.
he called me after. He's like, I couldn't find him.
We got a big giant fish mailbox. Can't miss it.
I know, in a big ass barn, and I was like, I don't know, dude.
Actually, so I thought of another question about graphs in general before I go to the trolling motors. I really want to ask a couple questions on that before we wrap this up tonight. For Active Target, for LiveScope, doesn't matter what brand, what is the absolute bare minimum you recommend for a screen size to really get the best bang for your buck?
So a 9-inch would be the bare minimum for sure. I mean, I've never sold a 7-inch graph, to be honest, with Active Target or LiveScope. So I would say 9-inch is a bare minimum. But if you're speaking Garmin, I really strongly recommend you looking into a 10-inch because it does make a huge difference. And then Lowrance, so you don't have a choice. You have to go to a 12-inch. But Garmin offers a lot of different SKUs, a lot more than Lowrance, and that's why a lot of guys lean towards the Garmin because they have some more affordable models. So if you can afford the 10-inch, I 100% recommend that.
That's good to know. I already know for myself, I plan on going to a 12-inch, and ideally, I'd like to upgrade all 3 graphs at once. I've got a Helix 9 for my 360. I've got an HDS 7 Gen 3 up front for just 2D sonar and mapping, and then an HDS 9 at the wheel for side imaging and mapping. And the 9 works. The 7 works up front for mapping and sonar. I really don't need a lot of real estate for that. The 9 for the Helix, I honestly feel like is just a smidge too small. I feel like if I had a 10-inch, as stupid as the 1-inch difference sounds, I feel like it would make a significant difference in the level of detail I can see, especially when I'm kind of like in scanning mode, for lack of a better way to put it, when I'm still kind of like in scouting mode, where I've got it set out like my full range is 80 feet, so 40 feet from the tow motor and 360 degrees of direction. Just being able to have that slightly bigger screen, I feel like it would make a significant difference in the level of detail that I can see. But I do know my plan is, ideally I like to stick to 3 graphs when I make my upgrade, so I still have my one Helix 12 for my 360, one HDS 12 up front, and then the HDS 12 out back, or the live, whatever it would be. It's still the HDS live, right?
Yeah, it's all HDS if you're talking Gen 3 carbon or live.
Gotcha. Okay. And actually, that's another question I have to ask, because this was something I had texted you about not too long ago. And then I promise the next question is going to be trolling motors. When it comes to what you're using up front, you have mapping, you have 2D sonar, you have LiveScope, you have 360. A lot of people are curious about 2D sonar and LiveScope. Do you still use both together, or has LiveScope really replaced the need to even use 2D sonar at this point?
What is 2D sonar?
I guess just like, you know, your traditional sonar.
No, no, I'm joking. I see absolutely no need for 2D sonar at this point, unless you're fishing shallow just to get a depth reading. That's the only reason I use it. 2D sonar is actually, I turned the sonar off on mine. I don't even use it at all anymore.
So I asked that question to you. I know 4 people, like very closely, that use it. You, my buddy Travis, who's a guide up in New Hampshire, him and his father, my buddy Kyle, who lives local to us, and then Smallmouth Freaks. And Smallmouth Freaks is the only one that still uses 2D sonar, while still using LiveScope too. But he also said it's a little bit more situational dependent. It's not like an always-on thing. It's just in certain situations. But he's not using it for depth. He's actually using it to mark fish. And I think that may be more dependent upon the way he specifically has his LiveScope set up. I'm not sure. I forget. I have to go back and look to see what he said.
Yeah, so I don't understand why you would care about 2D sonar, because you're looking at history and not live. So you might see a nice, beautiful arch right on your 2D, but with the LiveScope or the active target, you see where the fish is, and you have the ability to turn the trolling motor or the pole mount to see where that fish has moved to. So you can see if that fish is now back at the motor on the boat, if he's gone to the left, if he's gone to the right, if he's gone forward. And that all comes with understanding the transducer beam coming out of your live sonar, because that fish may be underneath your boat, or he may be underneath your boat a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. And you may not pick him up with the live sonar, but if you turn that transducer just enough, you will find him again. And so I feel like if you're still using 2D sonar offshore, then you just haven't quite grasped the knowledge or the understanding of that live sonar yet, because there's absolutely no need for it offshore at this point, other than up shallow, in my opinion.
Okay, I got you. So then my last question on that. I ideally want to stick to 3 graphs. And I know that this is hopefully kind of the same question that other people may have interest in, but thinking of like how we fish currently up front, right? I've got my 360s, one graph dedicated 360, and the one that's split between map and 2D sonar. If I'm going to go active target, because I do want to stick with low rants, I still need mapping. I want that up front. So, but I don't want to do multiple graphs. I want to stick to just 3 if I can for the time being. Would a 12-inch be sufficient for active target and then just a little narrow window of mapping? Can I customize how much screen is dedicated to my mapping? Or am I kind of limited?
That's actually the exact setup I'm running right now, because I had 2 12 lives at the front, but I took one off to add the 360. So right now I just have the 1 12 live. So I have a really narrow screen of mapping just so I can go to waypoints. And then the rest is all active target. I mean, next year I'm going to run a 16 at the back and a 16 at the front, but the 12 is sufficient to have that little narrow map on there with the active target.
Nice.
16-inch graph.
Yeah, have you ever sat behind a boat with a 16-inch graph?
Sat behind a 16-inch screen before, and it's freaking giant.
It's insane. TJ, his freaking Lund, that aircraft carrier.
After you see a 16, there's no going back.
Dude, it's nuts. It's like a TV screen. Like Smallmouth Freaks, TJ, he's got the Lund Pro V 2075, same one as Gussie has, that friggin' aircraft carrier, and he's got a 16 at the wheel. And I sat, behind that one thing. I'm like, oh, it's like a movie experience sitting behind that thing. You can see everything.
Yeah, lost. I'd run ashore.
T Foles did say you guys gotta make a video with Steve while he's using active target so we can see it in action. Yes, would love to. He already has a couple of videos on his channel with that, like, in action, and one of them was an ice fishing video, which was honestly like an incredible example of what that thing can do. So I highly recommend going over to his channel and taking a look at that.
And then here we won't only have like 5 videos on there.
Yeah, but they've all been killer. Like, as far as like what information you're presenting in those, like, they've been extremely valuable. So you get a lot of bang for your buck out of what you have on your channel so far. Did you have any other questions? Do you remember what it was you were trying to think of earlier?
I can't.
All right. So
Sorry.
No, it's good. So trolling motors, pros and cons of all three, and I don't know how much you've dealt with the Garmin one yet, but I know you're very intimately familiar with the Ultrex, and I would actually like to hear the most common uses of it, and then pros and cons of all three, the big three, the most common issues with all three as well. So people looking to jump up to the highest level of what is offered for trolling motors, what can they expect?
So what's your main question on it? Like what do I feel is the best one? Is that
yeah, I'll keep it simple. What's the best one, and then what are the top two, even the one most, like, the biggest issues, like the cons of all three?
So I mean, in my opinion, the Ghost excels over everything on the market. I mean, that's the Ghost. The head doesn't rotate all over the place like the Ultrex. It's much quieter. It's much more efficient because it's brushless. And I say it's much more efficient based off of facts, because I ran my Ultrex on my Lithiums, which have a Bluetooth readout, and I gained about 30 to 40% efficiency with the Ghost versus the Ultrex, just because it's brushless. So that in itself was huge. The Ghost has a breakaway shaft on it, so if you hit a stump or a rock or whatever, it's going to fold back into the snap like the Ultrex. It's got a much better transducer built in. I guess the Ultrex you can get built in with an MDI, so that's not really a fair comparison. But I just think there's a lot more innovative and updated features on the Ghost versus the Ultrex. The Garmin, if you're running an all Garmin setup, there's nothing wrong with the Garmin Force. I mean, it works great. I don't like that head rotating all around. I guess that's just a personal preference. I can't stand that when you're on spot lock, that thing rotating all over the place. Right. But with that being said, that brings up the next point. With live sonar, the Garmin and the Ultrex are much easier to line up if you're using it on the trolling motor shaft. So that's a big plus for those two. But the Ultrex has to be my least favorite out of all of them, and it's simply because of reliability and customer service.
Which I can personally attest to, which is exactly why I showed up to your house 2 days after I was at Champlain back in May to pick up my fancy new Lowrance Ghost.
I couldn't go.
Nope. That's okay. We're going to go back soon. I've had my Ghost 2 years, and I've already had two major malfunctions with it. One which had to go to, thankfully, could be handled just by a local warranty repair shop, which is no longer in business. The guy retired.
That's your Ultrex you had the issues with, correct?
Yep. And then now the latest one with the magnets grenading.
But he retired, the guy down in Mass.
Yeah, he retired, moved to Maine, so now he's not there. Barry. So now, like, I don't even know who you go to, because he was the guy. Now, as far as I know, we got to ship it
in New England.
Right, you got to ship it back to Minn Kota, and I don't even know what the turnaround time would be on that. Even assuming they had parts in stock.
Yeah. There's some guy down in Upton, Mass. I think Fin and Feathers. I don't know him from a hole in the wall, but I've heard that name mentioned. But all I can tell you is if you buy a Ghost, you bring it here. If you ever have an issue with it, Lowrance will overnight the parts free of charge, and we'll have you back up and running. And that's just, it doesn't get any better than that.
No, and I know that the Ghost is more expensive because that's what made, well, that it was brand new at the time I bought my Ultrex, so I was hesitant, and hindsight being 2020, I regret not just jumping on the Ghost when it came out. But that alone makes it totally worth the extra money. Just being able to have that level of ease of repair compared to the Ultrex, like, it's a no-brainer to me. My personal experience, get the Ghost. Do not get the Ultrex unless you get a stupid good deal on it. It's your first one in spot lock, then yeah, whatever. Like whatever you can afford, make it happen.
All day.
I got one for you.
Make sure if you buy the Ultrex, you can afford a spare.
And if you have a Fortrex that you're replacing with the Ultrex, don't sell it like me.
I got a Fortrex.
I had to sell it. I really needed the money to eat up the cost, but at the time.
My Ultrex died on me, and I had to put my Fortrex on the boat as a spare in a tournament, and I swear, I almost didn't even want to fish not having spot lock. I have to go back to that Fortrex.
Good thing you didn't put that freaking what is it, the Maxim that you gave me on?
Yeah, the one that's sitting outside of your garage the last 2 years?
Yeah. thing exploded on me.
You got good life out of that, though.
I did, and the plastic welding and everything else I did to it.
That was good $50 value, though.
It was very good. It got me on the water. The thing hauled ass compared to the 5 freaking foot-pounds I had before.
Yeah. The, oh, crap,
awesome.
I forgot what I was going to say. It was something about the Ultrex. Oh, the spot lock feature. I hate the phrase, but as far as game-changing goes, I don't think there's a single thing that better defines game-changing other than spot lock. And I would almost argue that that's more valuable than Active Target or LiveScope or forward Sonar, whatever you want. Because you can fish in literally anything.
Yeah.
Other than maybe 50-plus mile-an-hour winds. Although we were out in 45-mile-an-hour gusts, I think, the other day. Granted, I mean, it was the Ghost. It was my 24
hurricane.
Yeah, we were fishing out in the Hurricane. Spot locked down. Didn't move. It was great.
Yeah, no, it wasn't going anywhere.
No, it's definitely a huge asset to have on the boat. But my live sonar, I wouldn't trade for anything.
Not even your spot lock?
No. If I just pick one thing on the boat that I could use, it'd be Active Target.
Yeah, no.
I see that. I really do.
It's nuts. I've been in a boat a couple times with it. Like it's mind blowing. Kraken Kid did ask what length shaft you're running in your Ghost. I went from 45 to 52 inch, and that was the best decision of my life. I would have done 52 when I first bought my Ultrex, but it was going to be a couple months wait, and I was impatient. So
it doesn't matter. We still got the prop out of the water anyway.
On what, the 52 inch?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was like 35-mile sustained winds out of the northwest up on Newfound Lake. Like that, I don't care. 60-inch shaft is coming out. Easy. But what are you running on your boat, Steve?
I run the 52.
Yeah. It's a lot better.
Oh, it's huge. And it's nice because it still comes up. Although, what's actually really next on my purchase list is your new 360 mounting apparatus, like the dog bones for the 360 of the Ghost. That's next on my list because, you know, as I said earlier, I spend just as much time fishing in inches of water as I do out in 60 feet of water. So to be able to have that extra level of freedom, like, especially the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've been fishing a lot of shallow water lately, but there's still some areas that if we didn't have the wet season that we did this year, that has brought every freaking lake and pond that we fish well above normal pool, I wouldn't be able to fish spots I normally would because I can't pull my trolling motor up high enough to get in there because my 360's in the way. But if I get that setup that you have, that solves my problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, we're really happy about that mounting system we came up for the 360 and the Ghost. I think it's taken some educating to get people to understand what exactly it is, because some people think it's just a stabilizer, but there's nothing else on the market that works like that, where you can raise the Ghost up and the 360 goes with it. So
right,
we're excited to get that out there, and definitely we'll get one in your hands for sure.
Yep, it's 3 mounting points, but one of them is almost like a slip sleeve, so it doesn't clasp the shaft, it cups it. So that it can slide through. So one of them is a fixed point, or floating, if you will, and the other 2 are fixed, or vice versa. 2 are floating, 1's fixed, so that the shaft can slide up and through it, but that 1 point doesn't move, or 2. I forget. But
I understand how.
That's the concept. So it's nice because now you can set, the 360 deucer like at the perfect height above the trolling motor head, or as close to it as possible. And we go up into inches of water. I might pull the deucer out of the water, but that's okay by me. I don't give a shit. If we're in 6 inches of water anyway, we don't need it.
Yeah, right.
Just shut that graph off, slide the whole thing up, and just zip right across the top. Like that, to me, that's a no-brainer for me because of how much time we spend literally. I mean, we just had kind of that swim bait tournament we just fished. At one point, we tried to do something a little bit different, and we went into the thick of it.
It was thick.
And we couldn't have done that with my current boat setup if the water wasn't as high as it was. So I really need to get that.
Yeah. That'd be a big help.
Henry, there we go. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. So Kraken Kid did say 7 Lakes Marine is Minn Kota certified, but they are only doing trolling motors that they sold. Interesting. Henry Q. I'm on a budget. I barely have enough battery life on a tournament. I have a tracker with a 34 series AGM running 2 HDS 9s, 1 Talon, and live wells running. No room for 31 series. What is the best solution? I think you got the series mixed up. Isn't 34 bigger than 31? like actual physical dimensions?
I don't know. We don't deal with the 34 series. Most common I've seen is 24, 27, 29, and 31. Yeah, I mean the only solution there is you could buy like a small like amped outdoors lithium battery or something like that and put it in a different compartment and maybe run your electronics up to that, but then you get a separate battery to charge, or possibly doing like two group 27s in parallel or something like that.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, those trackers are tight on space. That was not fun installing that trolling motor with that second battery. That was brutal. That's
in that situation, a small lithium is probably your best bet.
Right. And what would that what is a small? What are the two sizes for the lithiums, and what are those price differences? I'm sure it varies.
We carry the Ionic, so like a 50 amp hour is $500 battery, but there is some cheaper alternatives on the market that we don't carry, like Amped Outdoors and Dakota and stuff. But you're going to have a really cheap quality. They call it a peanut cell inside, and that's why they're so much cheaper, because the cells that make that up are a lot lower quality, but they still work. You know what I mean? So that's another option, probably like a 30 amp hour.
Okay. Interesting. There's an option. I just saw a question. Go ahead, Smatus, Jamie.
When will Steve release his support? Support that will left when using the right height turret. Be left on.
He's laughing.
Who, me?
We don't take questions from Jamie.
Jamie seems to be full of questions like that.
What did he ask? I'm just messing around.
So when will you release his support that will be left on while using the right height turret?
We've actually got that in the works. We've started production on that. Well, I say started, but we should have something in the next 3 to 4 weeks. It's been put in motion.
What does he mean by that?
So a lot of guys that are running the turret it gets a lot of vibration and stuff in rough water or traveling. So they want a support brace that's going to allow the trolling motor shaft and the turret to spin freely. So we're making a double bushing support that's going to allow the turret and the trolling motor to spin while that's still on there.
Interesting. I dig it. That'd be nice.
Just more money to spend.
Yeah, at that point, what does it matter? All right, man. I don't know. Like at this point, it's 10:10. We have covered a ton.
Yeah.
Which I'm very grateful for. I was curious to see just how far we're gonna be able to get in this, and I think we ended up covering about 1.5 times the amount of information that I thought we were gonna have time for, which is phenomenal. Like the amount of information that Steve you were able to pack into this essentially 2 hours now at this point is incredible. And I hope that anybody that has made it through the whole stream at this point has found incredible value in everything that you were able to elaborate on for everybody tonight. And just there's a ton of great questions from the chat. I know we brought a few that were, I hope, good to help kind of get other people thinking about other questions. It's been great. So I think at this point it's a good time to start winding it down and just kind of call it a night. So Steve, I'm going to give you the floor again to go ahead and talk about your business, your website, all your social media and everything. Go ahead and promote yourself for a hot minute here.
Yeah, so just you can go to our website, bassfishinelectronics.com, and check out everything we have to offer. I want everybody to realize we don't just carry Humminbird, Minn Kota, and Lowrance. I mean, we've got pretty much every accessory you can think of. TH Marine, anything you can think of related to bass boats other than the motors, we've got it. And if we don't, then send us a message and we can most likely get it. So anything like that. And then another shout out to Hog Pours, Hand Poured Custom Baits. Check him out on Facebook. He's in Wisconsin. He's exclusively the baits I've been using on Champlain. So definitely check him out, give him some orders. And any questions you guys have, I operate off a cell phone, so I have that phone with me, Monday through Friday. You can reach me just about any time. Text me, call me, whatever. Send me messages on Facebook, and I'll get back to you and answer any of those questions you have.
Awesome. Cool. Well, again, thank you very much, Steve. Greatly appreciate your time tonight. For everybody else who's watched the stream at this point, people that donated, both John, we had Kevin, Eli, and I knew I was going to forget that there's a fourth person that donated. I'm very sorry. For those that all did donate, though, thank you very much. Seriously cannot thank you enough.
Yep.
That support is incredible. And, now at this point, I think we're over $300 towards that next goal. I got to go back and, start keeping a tally. And there's a couple other things I want to invest in. I'll throw my own money into it so we kind of make a chat a little bit more interactive for people donate. And hopefully make it easy to kind of keep track of where we're at, too, as things are progressing. So, other than that, that's it. If you're still here and you haven't done it yet, leave a like on the stream, please. That helps more than you can imagine. When the video is live later tomorrow, and pretty much immediately after this ends, it becomes just available to watch at any point. Share it all over. Please spread the word not only for our channel, but also Steve at bassfishinelectronics.com. It's not there yet, but after the stream, a link straight to his website will be down in the video description below. Otherwise, again, thank you very much. Holy shit.
Dan, thank you very much.
Dan coming in hot with a last minute donation, $15. Thank you very much, Dan. Greatly appreciate it. Andrew, do your thing. Steve, thank you very much again. Hang tight. We'll kill the stream and then we'll let you go. But again, appreciate your time very much, man. This was a very highly requested stream, and I'm glad we were able to get it done.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Steve, for coming on and joining us. I learned a bunch tonight. Stuff I never thought I'd ever think I'd learn about. But thanks again, Steve. Guys, next week we will be same time, same place. See you later.